Alrighty everyone, welcome back, and as we get closer to Memorial Day weekend, which by the way, I really thank everybody for their service out there that has served or is serving currently, and what's really great about everything related to the Star Wars franchise right now is that we do have John, George, and Dave all working together as a team, as well as Tony Gilroy, Timothy Zahn, and other creators coming on board to really become a part of this quote-unquote dream team that's going to turn Star Wars around for the better. Now, we know that Dave Filoni has been very direct with the fans. He's been really filling in the fans, he's been keeping them posted, hyping up the fan base, but sometimes along the way, we get a lot of underwhelming and bad news that comes to light via Filoni and or Favreau. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support, and without further ado, let's get right into the subject. Now, we know that Filoni has a lot of big plans for Star Wars Ahsoka Season 1 and 2, by the way, that he's already beginning to work on. And we also have the Dave Filoni movie that, by the way, is going to be the gateway to becoming a trilogy and will be treated as a new sequel trilogy in a sense, so looking forward to that as well. There's a lot of great things coming out of the Filoni-verse, as a lot of fans like to call it now. And I like to call it the Favloni universe because we have both Favreau and Filoni involved in multiple Star Wars projects. Now, with that being all put out there, alright, we know one thing about Favreau and Filoni is that they love to stay in touch with the fans. They like to keep them up to date about where they are with the Star Wars franchise, what's coming to light, and stuff around those lines. However, with Dave Filoni recently delivering many of his plans for the future of Star Wars, recently Filoni delivered and dropped some bad news for Star Wars fans. He went on to state the following: "We love Morrison and what he was able to do with the role of Boba Fett in Mando Season 2, but with his very own show, we dealt with our own struggles. Myself and John were going through lots of creative issues with Robert and Kathy, and we didn't and sadly never got to tell the story that we wanted to tell." By the way, guys, when he's talking about Robert, he is referencing Robert Rodriguez, the executive producer for a couple episodes there. He was actually granted a lot of creative power via Kathleen Kennedy for Boba Fett. Now, he goes on to state further, "We feel it would be very difficult to bring Boba back into his own show. So to answer your question, if we will be making a Season 2, as of right now, no, not really. Could things change? Yes, of course. But I think what is more important before we even think about doing that is by perhaps touching on his character in pieces and the many characters that Morrison could play in many of our upcoming shows. You see, he has this ability to play multiple characters since the clones were modeled after him. So though we have had discussions about a Season 2, and we even began working on it for a while now, we felt it was best to put that on hold for a very long time. Now, what's really sad about this is that this is all Kathleen Kennedy's doing that led to both John and Dave losing a lot of confidence over continuing the Boba Fett story. Continuing the story of the Book of Boba Fett specifically as a Season 2. And that to me is just really horrible. I mean, the fact that the reasoning why he did not return in Season 3 of Mando had a lot to do with Kathleen Kennedy as well, by the way. We talked about this just 2 weeks ago. That was all Kathleen Kennedy's doing as well. Not a big surprise there, to be honest. And it's just unfortunate that this is where we are today with the Star Wars franchise. That Morrison never got the call. He was desperately waiting by the phone every single day. He even admitted to this, that he was waiting and waiting and waiting for months to get that call for Season 3, and he was at one point in time in the early drafts of the script, and once it was getting rewritten by Dave and John, that's when Kathy insisted, let's write him out of the story. And all of these different issues led to John and Dave realizing that Kathleen Kennedy's doing really tarnished the Boba Fett character. And it's likely that we're not going to see Boba Fett now for a very long time. You might see different iterations of the Boba Fett-esque characters, such as Captain Rex, or something around those lines where, you know, it's focusing on the clones of him as different characters. But from what it sounds like, Boba Fett's story is 100% on hold for a while now, from what Filoni was able to confirm here is that they did have plans and they pulled the plug on it for now. They don't know when they're going to get back on board with Boba Fett Season 2, or if they even want to. So it's just sad that this whole fiasco with Mando Season 3 really kind of led to John and Dave losing a lot of confidence in restructuring Boba Fett. So moving on, he goes on to state further, we don't really want to touch that again just yet. Would things have turned out differently if we were able to tell the story that we wanted to in the first place for Season 3? Yes, absolutely. I have no doubt about that, as well as for Boba Fett. But we want to strictly focus on good stories that will be all hits, so that we can encourage fans that what we are doing can be trusted onwards. We felt horrible of excluding him from Season 3, but it wasn't our call. Kathy felt that was the best decision by removing him from the story. Of course, we both disagreed. Now again, I mean, it really is sad because Morrison is such a great actor in my opinion. He, I believe, is a very underrated character, or actor I should say, for characters that he could have really played in a lot of, projects in Hollywood. Now, given that he has been involved in Aquaman and some of these other major movies out there, he really needed more face value as Boba Fett again in Mando Season 3. He needed screen time in there. And it makes sense because Pedro Pascal even talked about this a couple of weeks ago. We covered this, that earlier on, the Slave One, and I, yes, call it the Slave One, it's not the fire spray. The Slave One was supposed to come into the Mandalore cave and shoot down those stormtroopers and Gideon's forces, essentially. He was supposed to come to Mando and Bo-Katan's aid and going up against Gideon as well and helping them in their cause for Mandalore. That was going to be amazing, and Kathleen Kennedy was the cause of excluding that. And here you have Filoni really confirming that, that's all now on hold. Boba Fett's story in the grand scale is just not really moving forward right now. It's just kind of stagnant. And it's sad because, look, Boba Fett is one of the greatest characters of all time, I think, in Star Wars, especially when you go into things like the books and the comics and stuff like that, especially in Legends, by the way, where he's really portrayed as, a very, anti-hero, villain-ish character, where he's really, thick-skinned. He doesn't really have a lot of, I guess you could say, a lot of these different kinds of emotions that you saw in the Boba Fett series that felt a little out of place. So basically, a lot of fans wanted the old Boba Fett. Even Morrison said that he was pressuring Kathleen Kennedy to give fans the old Boba Fett, and she just didn't want to do that. It's really clear that it was all about stripping down his character, much like how she did with many characters like Luke, Obi-Wan, and the list goes on, even Indiana Jones. So anyways, guys, I would love to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
Night to moon, we hear them moans again.